Welcome back. Should African-American jurors acquit black defendants even if they're guilty? That's the subject, and we're talking with the law professor who's making that proposal, Professor Paul Butler. Also with us is former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Victoria Toensing and law professor and legal commentator Paul Rothstein of Georgetown University. Before I raise my next question, Dr. Rothstein, you had a point you want to make?
Yes, I think we might grant, at least for the sake of argument, that Paul Butler is right, that there are some racist things going on with our laws and that they are not right. But there's a second question, and that is, what should be done about it? Should we let juries remedy that situation and just refuse to enforce the law, or should we work through the regular procedures and try to get the law changed? And I think that second question is where there's going to be some parting.
Professor Butler, can jurors make that fine line decision?
Well, African-American jurors are, again, engaging in nullification right now because the fact is we've gone to the legislator. Every crime bill, the Congressional Black Caucus says, well, why not money for education, for jobs, for drug rehabilitation? And the white majority just says no, it prefers prison. So we've, again, petitioned the legislator. How long are we supposed to wait? How many African-American men have to go to prison? 30% now, 50% later, when it's 75%, will then people realize it's time that black jurors use this self-help?
How do you think that black people feel about a young person at school with their children with a gun or selling drugs at their school? How do you think black jurors feel about that?
Well, in my proposal, I suggest that black jurors ought to ask themselves that question, and if they think that person is victimizing the community, then they should lock them up. I think a drug dealer selling drugs to kids ought to be in prison. So I'm not suggesting automatic nullification. I'm suggesting that juries use their brains to think about what's just, what's fair here.
But you know what, we're in a system, and that really is what we're talking about, the criminal justice system. In a system, there has to be some kind of rules. How do you even propose telling these black jurors? We get juries in and we say, okay, now all black jurors come over here and we're going to set out a set of rules for you to decide what to do if a black defendant happens to come along. Right, well, so what if you have a case where you have black defendants and white defendants, and you tell the black jurors, for the black defendants, you've got these rules. For the white defendants, or the Vietnamese, or the Mexican defendants, you have other rules?
Victoria, that's what the system's saying right now. That is, the system now is divisive. There's 70% of the people in jail for using drugs and selling drugs. Do you know reality? 70% of the people in jail for drugs are black. Do you really believe that 70% of the people in this country who use drugs are black? There's something wrong with that. The rule of law says if you use drugs, you go to jail. The rule of law only seems to apply to black people.
Those who look critically at the O.J. Simpson trial say that jury engaged in nullification. Johnny Cochran said he does not believe that to be true. He believed that they looked at the evidence and made a decision impartially based upon lack of sufficient evidence, lack of a witness, and the time frame debate. And so if it's based upon nullification, it would say those jurors are essentially dishonest.
Well, Reverend black jurors have too much. Yeah, I think that jury did its job. A reasonable doubt was raised by all that work that the defense counsel did. And we're just talking reasonable doubt. Now, I believe those jurors brought their experience to the table, experience as black people, and it made it very believable to them that the police could plant evidence and could be incompetent and could be hounding unjustly a black person, something a white person wouldn't.
But the jury also was not all black, by the way.
Well, that's right.
But the proposal is only for black jurors, as I understand the professor's proposal. Jury nullification goes on every single day. It goes on, though, in the heart of the jurors. And what at least I'm saying is that there should never be a part of a system that tells jurors that there should be nullification. Our system today allows nullification. What it says is you can't argue it, and you can't set up a system to tell people to nullify.
Isn't there a very thin line between John Cochran saying send a message?
He shouldn't have been allowed to argue that, Jesse.
And you're saying
there's hardly a judge.
It's all right in the heart. I mean, what are you saying about in the heart?
Because that's what jurors are allowed to do. Jurors are allowed to make a decision if a case is so distasteful that it turns them off. For example, some movie star who spray painted a photographer because the photographer was stalking him and he was acquitted a week ago.
Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin. I don't know movie stars. I don't care. But there are certain kinds of cases where jurors just don't like it.
But Paul, what about the thin line between in the heart and in the head?
Well, he wants to make it a part. No, I'm not making a fine distinction. It's a very important distinction because Paul wants to make it a part of a system. I'm saying that jurors today are free. If they don't like a case, and it shouldn't be just based on race, if they don't like a case because they think the prosecutor's wrong for whatever reason, they can vote for acquittal.
My proposal is race-based because criminal justice is race-based. We don't have a problem with a lot of white people in jail for nonviolent offenses. They simply don't go to jail for those offenses. So that's why my proposal is race-based. Again, if white people want to engage in the nullification, I think that will be fine.
No, but first, Professor Rothstein's proposal wasn't that they engage in nullification. He was saying, what should black jurors convict blacks who are a danger to the community?
Can I just ask no, Paul. We're going to come right back with some final thoughts on this very hot and controversial subject. We'll be right back.